and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little different. I actually really wanted to talk about my experience going to Disney World and Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. So because this is the content of this video, these must come on. You like them? They're up-themed. We spent 2 days in Universal and then 3 days in Disney. So I thought it'd be helpful if the first half of this video was sort of tips and tricks, and the second half of this video is me actually talking about my time there. Tip number 1. Do your research, especially because with Disney in particular, things are changing all the time. Make sure you check the official websites, so the official Disney World site and the official Universal Orlando site. But there are also a lot of people who have really dedicated their lives and even made careers out of keeping people updated about these parks. One of my favorite YouTubers is Disney Food Blog. And yeah, just like follow different hashtags on Twitter and on Instagram if you want to stay updated. I'll link some stuff that I used in the description of this video. I'll also link certain calendars that people have uploaded with what weeks out of the year are best to go, and even all the way down to which parks you should go to on which days. Apple's here now. Hello, Apple. Some people might not really like my second tip, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. I don't know that many people that make a trip to Orlando like every single year, so chances are if you are taking a trip down to Orlando for these parks, it's pretty special. It might be a once every 5 or 10 years kind of deal. Because of that, my second tip has to do with money. It's sort of a two-parter. Part A is spend the extra money where it'll make your trip better and more worthwhile, but part B is be aware of extra costs and how to avoid them. So regarding the first part of that money tip, I would really advise you spend the extra money on park hopper, on express passes. I don't know if some of you would consider this spending extra, but staying on site can really save you a lot of time and hassle. Like for example, David and I stayed at Disney's All-Star Movie Resort. Even though the hotel itself was not great, there were shuttles running back and forth between the hotel and the parks a lot. We didn't have to worry about transportation, we didn't have to worry about the extra cost of parking, and if you buy things at the parks, they can actually send it to your hotel room. And for Universal, we stayed right across the street. We stayed at a hotel that was literally called DoubleTree by Hilton Hotel at the entrance of Universal Orlando. That hotel might have been a little bit on the pricier side. We were able to use points, but you get what I mean. But we were able to take the free shuttle between the hotel and Universal Studios both days we were there. Our hotel was walking distance from the parks, like I said, right across the street. So if we wanted to go to City Walk for food, we could. Or if we missed the shuttle for any reason, it wasn't that big of a deal. So yeah, just be aware of different extra costs and extra add-ons. Some of those things you might want, like the express passes. I'll get into this more later, but the express passes for Disney and Universal were super worth it. For us, we are definitely not planning on going to Orlando. I think he just jumped onto the couch. For us, we are definitely not planning on going to Orlando every single year, and so we wanted to just spend some extra money to make our trip down worthwhile. We really did not want to spend the majority of our day just waiting in lines if we could avoid it. And if that means spending a little extra money just so that we have a better time at the parks, so be it. My third tip is to prioritize. And I feel like this could go a bunch of different ways. It depends on who you are and who you're traveling with and what you find to be important. For example, when we went to Epcot, which was not at all planned, and I will get into that later, there was a really cool festival going on called the Festival of the Arts. And for me, being a really huge foodie, as you can probably tell by this channel, I cared a lot about just hitting as many food booths as possible and trying as many different kinds of food as possible than necessarily riding a bunch of rides that I honestly had ridden before when I went to Disney in the past. Also, there are nighttime shows. If you care a lot about getting a good seat and seeing the fireworks, then you might want to prioritize sitting at a certain spot for an entire hour leading up to the show just so that you can get a good view instead of riding some extra rides. You can also prioritize your purchases. Like for me, these ears were definitely a splurge. This is a purchase that, as Marie Kondo would say, sparked joy for me. But there are a lot of other unnecessary purchases that might be trendy or popular to make that you don't necessarily have to make. Like magic bands at Disney World. Why buy a magic band to tap into all of your rides and into the parks when you're already holding your phone and you can do all of that with your phone? David and I also really prioritized being able to ride all of the rides that we could, even certain rides that we really liked 2 or 3 times. And so because of that, and also because we sort of booked our trip spontaneously, as in not early enough to make dining reservations, we ended up just mainly snacking our whole way through the trip. Some people I know really prioritize those dining experiences, especially at Disney World where you have like Cinderella's castle and everything. We didn't really care so much about that, like we cared a lot more about rides and like the nighttime shows. And also again, we booked kind of late so we couldn't get a reservation anyway, but that was okay for us. If you feel like you will care about dining experiences like that, make sure you book way ahead of time. And my fourth tip is pack accordingly. I brought what I thought were my comfiest shoes, but at the end of every single day without fail, I wanted to amputate my feet off. So make sure you bring shoes that have support. When we went in January, it would be really cold in the morning and then hot in the afternoon, but then hot and windy, and it would just keep flipping back and forth. So we packed a bunch of layers. You can also bring backpacks into the park, but we didn't want to have to carry a huge backpack around with all of our stuff. And also a lot of small lockers are free, but you do have to pay for big lockers. We only brought stuff into the park that could fit in a little fanny pack that I was wearing. And also, if you feel like food inside of any of these parks is super expensive, you're allowed to bring food in. There were nights where we would go on Uber Eats and order Wawa sandwiches the night before we went into a park, and then we would just slip our sandwiches into my fanny pack and then eat them for lunch so that we wouldn't have to pay for food in the parks. So those are basically all of my tips. Now I'm going to talk about my trip to the parks. David and I went in the middle of January. The middle of January and the end of August / beginning of September are the best times to go. They're just generally the least amount of people at Disney World and at Universal those times. We were there from January 17th to 21st. We bought the unlimited express pass and the park hopper for our first 2 days at Universal Studios. Honestly, we were able to get mostly everything we wanted to get done in the first day because we had that park hopper. The only ride that we had to wait an absurd amount of time for was Hagrid's motorbike adventure, and honestly, it's like in my top 3 rides of all time now. We also really love the Velocicoaster. I mean, we're roller coaster people, so if you're not into thrills, then that's probably not for you, but that is also just like such a crazy ride. Our hotel was not technically on Universal Studios property, so we had to get to the park and stand behind a rope and just watch everybody who was staying on site get to all the rides before we could. But it honestly wasn't that bad. Like, we prioritized which rides we wanted to go to and we planned accordingly, and we were able to get everything done that we wanted to. I will say that as a big movie fan and somebody who felt like Universal Studios was really magical when I was younger, I was a little disappointed by a lot of the changes that have been made in the past few years. I think Islands of Adventure as a park is still really fun, but the Universal Studios side of the park was pretty disappointing. A lot of my old favorite rides have been swapped out. There's no more Jaws, there's no more Twister, there's no more Disaster, and they've been swapped in for things like Fast and Furious. I feel like they're trying to incorporate a lot of 4D elements and more rides where you're just kind of sitting there and watching things happen around you, and very rarely is it executed well. Also, I used to really love the nighttime show at Universal because it was celebrating 100 years of movies. And now the nighttime show is like, here's all of our properties one by one. Here's all the Minions, and then here's Harry Potter, and then here's Jurassic Park, and then here's Fast and Furious. And it didn't feel genuine, it didn't feel like there was heart in it, it felt really commercialized. But I have to say, the vibe at Universal was generally a lot chiller than at Disney World. Then we spent the next 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, at Disney. Pancake sleep. Anyway, like I was saying, we spent the next 3 days at Disney. We were planning on only doing Hollywood Studios on Wednesday, Animal Kingdom on Thursday, and then Magic Kingdom on Friday. But we actually got everything done that we wanted to get done at Animal Kingdom on Thursday morning, and we spontaneously bought Park Hopper just so that we could go to Epcot the next day. So Wednesday, Hollywood Studios, my favorite Disney park. I'm not even a huge Star Wars fan, but Rise of the Resistance was like mind-blowing. On Friday, we spent half the day at Magic Kingdom, went back to Hollywood Studios just to ride Rise of the Resistance again, and then park hop back to Magic Kingdom to watch the nighttime show. Hollywood Studios just has a special place in my heart. I love a lot of the attractions there. Tower of Terror also, I don't know if it's in my top 3 favorite rides, it probably is, but definitely like in my top 5. And I was really sad to hear that the Great Movie Ride closed, but Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, try saying that 5 times fast, was actually really creative and sweet. You could tell that the Imagineers really put a lot of thought into that ride, especially because they knew they were replacing a classic. Thursday, Animal Kingdom. It was so hot. We were really excited to try the 2 new Avatar rides. Something I forgot to say earlier about spending money, just buy the lightning lanes. They're usually worth it. So before we got to Animal Kingdom, I don't remember what we did for what ride, but like, I think we did lightning lane for the Pandora like flight ride. That's basically Soarin', but you're on a motorcycle. And then we did Genie Plus for the Navi River adventure, one or the other. And then we were able to also Genie Plus was the Kilimanjaro Safari, which was probably our favorite part of Animal Kingdom because we both love animals. The Navi River Adventure was really pretty, but I would not ride it again. I mean, you're just sitting there in a boat and you're just like looking around. And we saw the Lion King show, which I still think is one of the best shows out of all the Disney parks. And then we bought Park Hopper to go to Epcot. So then we went to Epcot, and honestly, I was not having a great time because it was so hot and my feet were hurting, and I was actually feeling pretty nauseous a lot of this trip. Like, it's never happened to me before. I've never ever gotten motion sickness on rides, but I guess I'm just getting older and I needed Dramamine. So at Epcot, again, my main priority was the food. On the shuttle ride from Animal Kingdom to Epcot, I actually went on Disney Food Blog and I found a map that they had uploaded. It had all the different special food booths for Festival of the Arts, and I looked at all the menus and I just circled the ones I wanted to go to. I am secretly a sucker for Frozen, so we did wait in line for the Frozen ride, but it actually wasn't that bad of a wait. We bought Lightning Lane for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure or whatever it was called. I prioritized seeing the nighttime show at Epcot because I've heard that it's spectacular. So I did sit at a certain location at Epcot for an hour before the show started. The Epcot nighttime show might be the best nighttime show I've ever seen. It actually made me really emotional because they were singing like songs from different Disney movies, but in the language of the country that the stories are set in. So like the Mulan section just made me like really emotional because they were singing in Mandarin and I understood, and like, why am I getting emotional? It's called Epcot Harmonious, by the way. Third day we went to Magic Kingdom. I did not like the vibes at Magic Kingdom. I don't really have anything against little kids, as in if there is one little kid by me, I think that they're really cute, but there were so many little kids just screaming and crying all over Magic Kingdom. It just felt very crowded and claustrophobic. I said to David that we are never ever coming to Orlando in the summer because if I'm already feeling like this is claustrophobic in January, I can't even imagine what summer would feel like. I think at Magic Kingdom we just wanted to ride like a bunch of the classic rides. So we did some rides at Magic Kingdom. We did like PhilharMagic, which I really love. We did Mike's Laugh Floor, the Monsters Inc. thing. I don't remember what it was called, which I'd never done before and it was actually really funny. I think we just like did some pretty chill rides and then we were like, okay, we need to get to Hollywood Studios. So we ended up riding Tower of Terror again. We did Tower of Terror twice the first day, and so this was our third time on it because we had bought Lightning Lane to Rise of the Resistance. So we did Magic Kingdom and then we went to Hollywood Studios, did Tower of Terror, went to Rise of the Resistance. Might have done another thing or two at Hollywood Studios, and then we went back to Magic Kingdom. We were like speeding to Magic Kingdom because the shuttle was not coming, and so we just made our Pirates of the Caribbean Genie Plus reservation. But then after that, I like went to try and find the gray stuff at Gaston's Tavern, only to find out that it was closed, and I was heartbroken. But then we like sat right in front of the castle for like an hour waiting for that nighttime show. Pro tip, do not sit where we sat. Not only will you not really be able to see the fireworks, but getting out of that area after the show is a complete nightmare. If you want a good view of the show, go and watch it from like Main Street. We knew that right after that fireworks show, we were gonna race to Space Mountain because surprisingly, even though that's like a classic ride, there was consistently a long line for that the entire day. And you can buy 2 Lightning Lane passes for every day, and we used our 2 already that day on Rise of the Resistance and the Seven Dwarfs ride, which was not really worth it. And Space Mountain is only a Lightning Lane ride, so you can either buy the money to like express pass that, or you wait in line for like 2 hours. We ended up only waiting 20 minutes after the fireworks show, so yes, getting out of the crowd after the fireworks show was a nightmare, but we chose a spot where we knew we could get to Space Mountain as soon as possible, basically. Space Mountain was fun, and we actually were going to race to the other side of the park to do Haunted Mansion, but my feet hurt so badly that I just wanted to go home. The trip was a lot of fun. I think right after that trip we had some PTSD and we were just sort of like, oh my gosh, it was just so much all the time everywhere that we are not gonna go back for like 5 to 10 years. But now thinking about it, I kind of want to go back, and that's how they get you. So if you are planning a trip to Florida, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment down below and I would love to help as best as I can. So yeah, if you decide to go, I hope you have a great time. That's it for today's video. I need to drink some water, that was a lot of talking. Stay tuned for upcoming videos, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Please subscribe to my channel, like please, and I'll see you next time. Bye!